Hello, second grade scientists. I've got a fun, spooky activity for us to do leading up to Halloween. Today, we're going to take x rays of ourselves. Before we get started, let's investigate our hand and fingers. Make a fist. Curl your fingers. Flex your fingers as wide apart as you can. Have your thumb touch the bottom part of your pinky finger. What do you notice about your fingers and hand? Pause the video and talk to someone at home. What do you notice? Did you notice how quickly you can move your fingers? Maybe you noticed all the different ways you can make your fingers and hand move. You scientists probably noticed lots of things about your fingers and hand. For today's spooky science activity, we're going to make an x ray of all the bones in our hand. Let's take a look at our materials. You can pause the video, gather your materials, and then continue on when you're ready. So let's see. You're going to need one piece of orange or yellow construction paper, one dark blue or purple crayon, a paper towel, a Q-tip or two or three, a small plastic cup, some vegetable oil, and if you're working at a nice table, you might want to cover it with newspaper or a plastic bag. You can pause the video, gather your materials, and then when you come back, we'll go step by step. Here we go. The first thing you want to do is trace your hand and wrist with your crayon on your piece of construction paper. Please make sure you have part of your wrist on the paper. Check out these pictures. Line it up, outline, and you're ready to go. If at any point you need to pause the video to complete a step, please do. And then when you're ready, hit play. Next up, make a mark on your paper next to where each knuckle is. And your knuckle is where your fingers bend. So usually you can see we have these lines on our fingers that show our knuckles. You're going to want to just make a small mark at each knuckle on each finger and your thumb. Make a little line across, and then when you take your hand away, you want to make sure you know where those knuckles line up. Line your hand up again and make a fist. See where the last knuckles are? Use your crayon to draw where those knuckles are by making just a small line. And again, don't forget your thumb. That's our last knuckle. Make sure that once you make a fist, you can draw where that knuckle is. In our fingers, each finger bone is small and looks kind of like a rectangle. Draw in each bone between the knuckles. Make sure you don't overlap any of the lines you've already drawn. You want to leave some space. And don't forget about your thumb. Our four fingers have 3 bones you can see. Make sure you draw those bones. Our thumb has just 2 right here. Leave space between the bones. That's where our knuckle is. Your wrist is also a joint. Line your hand back up on your paper on your outline and flex your hand up like it's standing up. Mark on your paper where your wrist is. You want to make another light line to show right where your wrist is. So once it's standing up, kind of draw where that wrist lines up. We have longer bones between our fingers and our wrist. We just can't feel them. Pause for a moment. Can you feel them in your hand? I can't. They kind of fan out from our wrist to our fingers. Draw in the bones like you see in this picture of an X-ray. Make sure, once again, to leave room between the bones for the knuckles. So make sure you've got one for each of our fingers, and again, don't forget your thumb. Inside our wrist, there are actually 8 small bones. They are roundish and are like a puzzle to help our wrist move in so many directions. Because they can rotate so much, we're going to draw 8 small circles to show our wrist bones. Down there at the bottom, I have 2 rows of 4, and that makes 8 small wrist bones. Below your wrist is the beginning of your arm bones. There are 2 bones in your lower arm. One is thicker than the other. The thicker one is on your thumb side, and it is called the radius. And the thinner one, which is below your pinky, is the ulna. Draw the beginning of your arm bones onto your paper. Remember, the thicker one below your thumb is the radius, and the thinner one below your pinky is the ulna. Color in the space between the bones. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't need to make it too dark. We have more work to do. Fill in that space. Now it's time to make it shine like the X-ray. Each person will use the paper towel to put under your paper, the Q-tip, and a small cup of oil that you have from your materials. Put your construction paper on top of the paper towel. That way, it doesn't bleed onto your table and make a huge mess. You're going to very carefully dip the Q-tip in the oil, and then you want to wipe it off on the edge. Color in each bone with the oil. Okay, here's the tricky part. You do not want it too dark, or the oil will drip, but if it's too light, it won't work. You have to find that just right amount. I found that one dip for each set of finger bones tends to work pretty well. The oil should absorb into the paper and it shouldn't really leave a shine. To know if you have the right amount, if you flip over your paper, you should see the oil through it, but not too dark and not too light. If you need to, pause the video so you can color in each bone with the oil. When you're ready, hit play. Make sure it's dry and then hold it up towards the light. You should be able to see the bones in your hand shining through the construction paper. You've made your very own X-ray of your own hand. Very awesome. And as we have this X-ray, let's take a quick look at the bones in our hand and arm and compare them to another animal we looked at recently, the bat. What do you notice about the bones in your arm and hand? How does it compare to the bones in a bat's arm and wing? Pause the video and talk to someone about it at home. What do you notice? What do you already know? All right, my spooky second grade scientists, that is the end of our lesson. You can use your X-ray as a decoration this Halloween. Think about how our hand and arm look similar to that of a bat's. And I hope you have a wonderful and safe Halloween, my spooky second grade scientists.